Hey, it's Mo Egger. It's football season, and there's no better place to post up to watch the games than Long Neck Sports Grill. Start with the TV setup. There's 4K TVs all over the place, and the sound is on for all the big games. Then there's the menu. It is awesome, and it's extensive. I love the wings, and of course, you need beer. No place has a better beer selection than Long Neck's. 3 Northern Kentucky locations, Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood. Long Neck Sports Grill. Stay late. Come often. We do this on Wednesdays, and I hate that we have a pressing injury to talk about, but we do. Chidobe Awuzie, a season-ending ACL tear. To give us some insight on the injury is our friend, Dr. Nick Early from OrthoCincy's. He is one of the team physicians for the Forest Hill School District, specifically at Turpin High School. OrthoCincy's, you never need an appointment. They've got extended evening and Saturday hours in Edgewood and Eastgate. And you can learn more at OrthoCincy.com. That's OrthoCincy.com. Let's start with what's ahead in the coming weeks and months for Chidobe Awuzie. Outline for me what the procedure and his rest and recovery and what lies ahead for him in the aftermath of this injury.
So ACL tears in an athlete pretty much always require surgery. So he's going to need surgery. Now, the timing of that oftentimes can be a few weeks after the initial injury. And there's also some considerations there based on what additional injuries he may or may not have sustained at the same time. After surgery, there's a lot of physical therapy associated with that. The recovery, for a really high-level athlete coming back to sports, oftentimes can be about 9 months plus or minus. It just depends. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. There's been cases in the NFL where guys have come back quicker and really been successful, and other times where it's taken longer. And some of that just depends on how they're performing in their rehab. So we'll have to kind of see how things progress. And like I said, it just depends on the specifics of, the injury as well, if there's anything in addition to the ACL.
Chido's obviously not going to play this year. How much should we be worrying about his availability for the start of next season or even for the beginning of training camp?
Yeah, so we're just under 9 months out from training camp starting next year. So the hope would be, if everything goes well, he's a successful surgery and his rehab's going well and, is doing well. And really, like I said, at that level of competition and with all the rehab he has access to, that he may be ready for the start of training camp. But there's definitely a possibility that he could miss some time at the beginning of the year, just kind of depending on how things go. But I would hope that he would potentially be ready. I think that the timing of it is pretty much right along there, though. You wouldn't expect to see him back this year for sure. And so it's just going to be a matter of whether or not he can get back to the beginning, and there's a chance that he will.
Going to be paying attention to that all throughout the offseason. Terms like ACL and MCL and PCL, they've become, unfortunately, I guess, part of our regular vernacular when we talk about athletes and injuries and things of that nature. Can you, in terms that a dumb guy like me will understand, what is the difference between an ACL, an MCL, and a PCL? Because we hear about all three, and sometimes, as in the case of Joe Burrow, we hear about all three at the same time.
Yeah, so exactly. So if you're talking about the different ligaments, what the letters are really describing is where they're at in the knee. And the difference, really, the importance of them is, where they're at, but also functionally what they're doing. So the ACL is the one you hear about all the time. Somebody hurts that, they're going to end up having surgery. And there's kind of a couple of reasons for that. And the first is it doesn't really have a great capacity to heal once it's injured. Whereas, the PCL or the MCL, if they're injured in isolation, oftentimes don't need surgery. Now, if you injure multiple ligaments at one time, that's a different situation, and so you may have to address multiple things at one time. The ACL specifically is really important for rotational control of the knee. So you can imagine if somebody's an athlete who plays a cutting and pivoting sport and they injure that, there's just pretty much no way they're going to be very effective without it. And beyond that, if you don't have an ACL, you're at a really high risk for sustaining additional damage and injuries to the other structures in the knee, which can really make the knee go downhill really quickly. So that's pretty much a critical structure in the knee for anybody who's playing sports.
Dr. Nick Early with OrthoCincy, Orthopedic Urgent Care. Check out OrthoCincy.com. I'm old enough to remember a couple of decades ago when you would hear about an athlete suffering an injury like this, an ACL tear, and it felt like the conversation was a lot different than it is now, where we talk about a procedure being done, recovery, rehab, and he's back on the field, and sometimes better than ever. Not that long ago, you suffered an injury like this. We were talking about the possibility of it being career-ending. What advancements have transpired over the last couple of decades to ensure that that is not the case nearly as much?
Sure. So there's a few things. So first off, there's been a ton of research on the subject of ACL injuries, ACL prevention, and obviously recovery. Technically, when we're performing the surgery, there have been some advancements in the way we do that to actually improve the way you're putting the new ACL in. So essentially, when you're reconstructing that ligament, there's been ways to improve that so that structurally you're getting a better result. On top of that, there's been a lot of research into the rehab and kind of what you're looking at in terms of how to best return somebody to activities. And that's actually changed quite a bit, probably over the last 20 years, like you said, in terms of, now these surgeries are done in a short amount of time as an outpatient and you start therapy right away. And that wasn't the case, 20, 30 years ago. On top of that, there's a lot more understanding of biology and healing and some other things that, we can kind of do to help in certain situations to help with really bad knee injuries. And then certainly, I think a big part of it also is just that, athletes today, they really can invest a lot in their bodies. They take care of themselves. They do really great rehab, in the off season. They do what they need to do to come back. And so I think there's kind of a mix of factors that have led to some people being really successful after having an injury like this.
Okay, one more maybe dumb question. There are times where I will see an athlete leave the field like Chido did, where he was carted to the locker room from the sideline, and it's pretty easy to draw the conclusion that he's dealing with something severe, right? But I've also seen athletes suffer ACL tears and MCL tears where in real time they walk off under their own power. Sometimes they even jog off, and it appears, at least to my untrained eye, like they're okay. Maybe they're just dealing with a slight sprain or strain or basic knee pain, and then we find out after the fact, actually it's something a little bit more severe that's going to require surgery and a bunch of missed time, like an ACL tear. How does that happen?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So basically, like I said, with the ACL, it's really important for rotational control. So there's some injuries where somebody may twist and injure it, and it may just be just enough to injure that ligament, but not to really do a whole lot of additional damage to the knee. And it doesn't oftentimes start swelling up until a couple hours after the injury. And so they may, have felt something, maybe even feel a pop in their knee, have some pain, but they may be able to stand up and, kind of feel funny, and it may feel a little sore and walk off, and that's not uncommon. And then there's other times where, they may have a more significant twisting injury where there's some other structures which are injured along with it, and it's just a little bit more violent of an injury. And so they're going to have more pain and a little bit more swelling quicker and kind of notice it right away. And those are the situations, where you may see somebody, have to be immobilized quicker or something along those lines.
Terrific stuff. Very informative. I appreciate the time. Doctor, we'll do it again. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, you got it, Dr. Nick Early from OrthoCincy. Again, OrthoCincy.com. If you want to make an appointment, but the key at OrthoCincy is an appointment is never necessary, and extended evening and Saturday hours at the Edgewood and Eastgate locations. There are locations all over the tri-state. Go to OrthoCincy.com. Hey, it's Mo Egger. If you and your buddies are looking for a place to post up this football season, how about Long Neck Sports Grill? 3 locations in northern Kentucky, all of them very easy to get to. You got Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood. There's 4K TVs all over the place. And this is important, the sound's going to be on for all the big games. The menu is fantastic. I love the wings, and no place has a better beer selection. Long Neck Sports Grill, perfect for football season. Stay late, come often.